So Dynasty Warriors 8 came out about a week ago, and I got it the day before it came out, and just as I expected, it's a very good game. If you've played Dynasty Warriors 7, you know what you're in for. It's not about reinventing the wheel like 6 was, and it's not about fixing the problems 6 had like 7 was. It's about taking what they had with 7, a very good game, and making small tweaks to it. Not one big change that affects everything, just a bunch of smaller things that improve the experience in their own small ways that overall makes the entire experience better. For example, if you hold down the call horse button while the horse is near you, your character automatically mounts it, and the horse can even start going while the character is still in the process of mounting it. Just a couple of small improvements that really do make the game feel a little more fast paced. See, stuff like that, just smaller things. As always, the game comes packed with characters, including a bunch of new ones. Something I found interesting is that while Jin's just trying to build up as many characters as it can, the 3 kingdoms each have a theme, with Shu's being the next generation, adding Zhang Fei's son, Guan Yu's other son and his daughter, Wei focusing on the Battle of Hefei, adding Li Dian and Yue Jin, and with Wu, the focus is on Bi, adding Han Dang and Lu Su. None of the characters really stand out to me the way Lian Shi did in 7. No characters would really shoot up in my top favourite characters list. Some have really good movesets, like one of the new Jin characters whose name I just really can't remember. And I quite like Zhang Bao, mainly because he's voiced by Johnny Young Bosch. But none of them I would say were bad choices, like I would say with Guan Suat and Bao Sanyang, who funnily enough are hardly even in the game. As far as the voice cast goes, it's almost identical to 7. This is the most consistent voice cast that we've had in the entire franchise for the English version. The only recasting is Travis Willingham as Xu Huang and Zhou Tai. Supposedly both roles have been given to Kyle A. Burr, meaning that he is now voicing 4 characters simultaneously. Other than that, the cast is identical, with newcomers Cindy Robinson, Johnny Young Bosch, and some of the established voice actors getting additional roles like Matthew Mercer. Also, every character now has their own unique moveset and weapon, which was a bit of an issue in 7, and now that issue is gone. The story mode has been improved. In 7, the way it works was you had the 4 factions, Jin, Shu, Wu, Wei, and for each stage you'd be given a specific character to play as. And while it worked for certain battles like Shu's Changban, which I think did it perfectly, other times it really just kind of made the story drag. Like when you were doing the Wei campaign, you were at the Battle of Guandu, you had 2 stages, both where you did pretty much the same thing, and it just made it take longer to get through. In this one, each battle is now just 1 stage again, and for each stage you were given a selection of typically 3 to 4 characters to choose from. And within the stage, each character will be expected to fulfill a certain role. In some ways it reminds me of Samurai Warriors Chronicles. The idea being that, say, for Changban, for Shu again, you have Zhao Yun, Zhuge Liang, Zhang Fei. The 3 are expected to defend the bridge while Liu Bei flees. Then the characters will hear that Liu Shan has been left behind, and Zhao Yun will go off to do that. If you're playing as him, you're expected to do it. If you're playing as one of the others, the AI will do it. And then Zhuge Liang has to go off and help Liu Bei, while Zhang Fei stays a hold of the bridge. Each character is given a different role in the battle, and so when you're playing as a different character, the way you play through the stage will differ. Of course, you don't have to do this. And if you play as Zhang Fei, you could probably go and find Liu Shan. And sometimes if you're told to go in a certain direction, you don't have to, you can just go off another way. It will screw up some strategies, and sometimes it might get someone killed, but there you go. Of course, Omega Force have realised that if they just did the same story again, because it is mostly the same story, they pretty much end at the same point as they did in 7, if they were just doing the same thing every game, it would get a bit dull. And that was one of the strengths of the previous games like 6 and 5, where there are all these different outcomes depending on who you're playing as. In this one, you have what are called hypothetical scenarios. Basically, certain stages, typically one where someone dies, will have a side objective. If you complete this objective, it can unlock additional stages or make a character survive so they can appear in later battles. And if you manage to achieve specific ones throughout the story, when you reach a certain point about 2/3 through, you're given a choice to do the hypothetical route, a story branch which leads to a completely different ending. So I like that, the fact that there's a lot more replay value going back, doing the stages, trying to keep people alive, get alternate endings. And not only that, but you've also got, it's listed as a campaign, but it's not a campaign. That basically every character in the other category has a stage focused on them, kind of like what you'd get in the Extreme Legends games. So there's a stage for each of those, meaning there's something to do with them, and I like that. Aside from the story mode, there is also the return of free mode, but there is something nice they've done with this one, where if a battle has an alternate force that you don't get to play as, like say in Wei's campaign when you're battling Shuju's people, there is an alternate version of the stage where you get to play on Shuju's side. And I think that's a really cool addition. So that and the alternate story branches means there's a lot of stages to play through, a lot of replay value. This game has a lot to do in it, a lot of replay value, definitely worth the money. There is also the new Ambition mode. It's very similar to Conquest mode from the last game, but instead of the goal being to basically conquer the entire land and improve your relationships with all the characters, the goal is that the Emperor has fled the capital and is just going around trying to find somewhere it can be safe, and you're trying to build up this small town, make it bigger and better, in hopes that the Emperor will come to you. And it's a nice little mode. It's, like I said, it's very similar to Conquest, but with all these new additions, like, you know, having to put resources into building up the town. Also, you have to do battles to recruit various characters. You start off, you pick one character to play as, which in my case was Shu, and from there you have to do battles to find the other characters, defeat them, recruit them, and bring them into your town. And this applies to the entire normal cast, plus a few generic ones. So to unlock a character to play as, you have to recruit them. The only one you don't have to recruit is the one you choose at the start. And they still have the relationship system. It's just like, I think it's just like what they had in 7. So it's not recruited, like, it's not like having to do relationships between all the characters like it was in Warriors Already 3. It's just between the player and all the characters, which is good. Honestly, I've not played much of the mode because I've been focusing more on just doing all the story paths for the campaign and unlocking all the characters. But from what I've played, it's pretty decent, and I think a mode like this would be a nice addition for an Empires game, so that you don't have to try and conquer the land. You can just try and build up a small town, just something much more small scale that, you know, you might want to do. There is DLC released in Japan, which I'm guessing most of it will come here. You know, it's the typical stuff. They have stages from previous games remade, like ones from 5 Extreme Legends and stuff. The costume packs, of course. But a nice little thing about them is that now you can actually equip alternate costumes to the characters and have them be used in other modes outside of the story mode, and view cutscenes with the characters in those costumes. So you could get a stage from 5, download the 5 costume pack, and then just play through with everyone in the 5 appearances to make it a little more authentic, which is nice. And again, they've got some DLC weapons. You know, they brought back Xiao Chao's dual fans, Yue Ying's wrist-mounted crossbow. They've got Greaves, so you can go around kicking people to death, like Chun-Li. These 2 small rod things, I'm not really sure what that is. And a flame sword. Now, since the screenshots have shown the flame sword being used by Sun Quan, who uses the sword, and the dual fans have been shown by Xiao Chao, who uses the iron fan, I'm guessing those 2 weapons are going to go to those characters, while their weapons, which are a bit more generic, will just be used by generic officers in future releases. Speaking of future releases, when 7 was made, there was a poll in Famitsu to see what historical figure fans most wanted to see in the game, and the winner was Guo Jia, who later appeared in Extreme Legends. They did the same with 8, and it was Chen Gong, who is Lu Bu's advisor. There's even some concept art of what he may end up looking like, so when they do Extreme Legends, he's probably going to show up in it. So the question is, which of these DLC weapons is he going to be given, if he's going to be given one of them? I don't have many gripes with the game. There are a few. Like, there's still a lot of characters that don't show up in the story mode at all. Like, if you don't follow the hypothetical route for Wu, Xiao Qiao is completely absent. Or Tsai Wenji is completely absent unless you do the hypothetical routes. Like, some cases I'm fine with that, like Bao Xianyang, because I just really don't like her. But with other cases, it's like, I do like the characters, I want them to show up, but they're just completely absent. So it just seems weird to not have, say, Sun Ce's wife appear at all. Like, outside of the scenario where you manage to keep him alive. The other gripe is, I've noticed a few glitches. And there's also this major frame rate issue. The game does slow down quite a lot. I think it has improved a little since the day one update. But even so, like, sometimes it gets really bad. Like, the final stage of Wei's hypothetical scenario, it got really bad. As for the glitch has never got as bad as this. There was this really bad glitch I ran into. There's a cutscene in which Zhao Yun fights Jiang Wei. What happened was, Zhao Yun became invisible, and then the next thing I know, I'm in control of the camera, and all the characters are invisible, and the sounds are still playing for the cutscene, and I'm just watching nothingness, except there's a horse there for some reason. And then, after the cutscene, enemy officers wouldn't spawn properly, so I couldn't advance, so I had to save and quit, and then when I loaded the game, it crashed on me. You know, resetting my Xbox and loading it up again, it was fine. It's never been as bad as that, but it was a pretty bad moment. So hopefully they can fix some of these issues with more patches. I don't know if there will be any more patches, I hope there are. But, yeah, pretty bad. This game is very much what the older titles were, like 3, 4 and 5. They weren't changing too much, they were changing little things to make the overall experience better. It was refining the same experience, so it plays a lot like 7, just there are a number of improvements. So I would say this is possibly the best Dynasty Warriors. I'm not 100% sure about giving it that label unless they can fix the frame rate issues, because it does hamper the experience quite a bit. Not too majorly. Like when I recorded this review the first time, it just slipped my mind entirely. So clearly it's not that big a deal. It's not a deal breaker, you know, but it is quite noticeable. Despite these issues though, I can definitely say that it is a game that's worth getting. Naturally, because it's retelling the same stories each time, any Dynasty Warriors game is a good jumping on point. Since this one's just come out though, if you want to get into the series, you might want to go with 7 because it's rather cheap now. I've been out for a couple of years now. So I would say 7 might be a better starting point for you, unless you can find 8 cheap a couple months down the line. 8 is still an overall better game than 7, so I can definitely recommend it. Of course, most Warriors fans will have probably already got the game. If not, what are you waiting for? It's really good. Go out and buy it right now. I'm telling you, right now, go out and buy it. Or order it online. That works too. The game's so much fun. All the footage you've been seeing is actually me playing the game and having a lot of fun. So, yeah. Go out and buy it. Please.